Welcome to the Digital Golfer Podcast, where we unlock the power of technology and data. From tips to performance insights, we talk to coaches and players about how tech is changing the game.
Welcome back to the Digital Golfer Podcast. Today we have Luke Joy. How are you, Luke?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, man. Where are you today?
I am in my apartment in Abu Dhabi. So just got my son down to sleep. So hopefully we don't have any interruptions from that. But yeah, it looks pretty zonked out. So happy days.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, let's hope we have 40 minutes of peace and quiet. So thanks for jumping on this podcast. You and I have spoken for a while. I did caddy for you for a while until I don't think I made the grade. And we've been friends for a while. This is your 12th season going out onto the tour. And we're jumping on a call today to talk about the use of data in golf, how you use it, how it sets your priorities for practice, how you reflect on it after a round, and what your strategy is going to be this year. Lots of people are now gathering their data, and I don't think most people know how to use it properly. As well as being 12 years on the tour, you are also a performance coach as well now.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, like you said, I think data is one of those things which can be used amazingly well or amazingly poorly, depending on who's viewing it and how they want to see it. And I think ultimately it all comes down to the player itself, but you've got to kind of find what works for you and how ultimately, I guess, you want to find the best way to get you performing your best at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we traditionally look at data on the course. I know you use a couple of apps.
Yep.
You're gonna work with another app this year called Perform 72.
Yep.
We're gonna develop some data collection strategies for you there.
Absolutely.
But I think it's changing, isn't it? Things are becoming a little bit more holistic. There are other things we want to measure now, not just what's going on the course, even though that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. My main thing is I've used UpGame mainly for my research and Google Earth actually for my preparations for, I guess, with my performance coach and my mindset stuff that I've done when I was during COVID. It's a lot about asking good questions of yourself, and but it also is looking at questions that the golf architect who's designed the golf course is asking you of your game. So if I can basically look into how the golf course is shaping up before I go, apply a bit of a practice plan to that, so that I'm ultimately practicing the shots which I think will happen on that golf course in that week, then I can feel confident that I'm best prepared for that test that's coming. Now, don't get me wrong, I can put my hands up. There's been numerous times where I've done this and I get there and it's either sopping wet or rock hard, and all of the clubs that I'm hitting a 4-iron 280 yards because it's baked out in the UK in the summer, or I've flown somewhere to Asia and they've had monsoon season and it's plugging in the fairway. So you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, but ideally it's more, can I get my mindset right that I feel confident going into that week, knowing that I've practiced the shots that I feel will be tested of me that week.
Yeah, and I think on this chat, during this chat, we're going to challenge some of those things, which is really, really interesting because lots of people are coming back to us now and saying, having that preparation is great. It does relax the mind to know that you've seen the course, you can visualize the course. But golf's not like that, is it? Golf's not that consistent. It isn't something. It may put you in a slightly better mental state, knowing that you've done all you possibly can. It's the old Scotty Scheffler thing, what are you going to win this tournament? He said, well, I've done everything I possibly can to win it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work, does it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I mean, I wouldn't be still searching or still trying to do what I'm doing because I haven't made it to where I want to get to.
Mm,
So I can't sit there and say this is the right way,
mm,
but I also can't say it's the wrong way because I'm sitting there going, okay, since doing it, I am seeing signs of my game improving
mm,
from lower scores, be it better execution of shots, which I didn't have before.
yeah,
Now, I guess that's subjective in in terms of I can see that my proximity to the hole is getting better and things like that. So it is, yeah, it's a tricky one to get right, but
yeah.
ultimately you've got to start somewhere.
You have, and let's jump into some of the specifics, shall we, around the stats you're looking at.
Hmm.
You talk there about proximity to the hole,
Yeah.
and I mean, what level of detail do you go down to with those sorts of things, and what other stats do you look at today?
So if I'm honest, mainly in my practice, I set myself tasks of proximity to the hole. So the I'd say that the good standard would be the 10% of yardage in feet. So
Mm,
when I'm practicing, an example would be if I'm at 100 yards, I'd be looking to get it to 10 feet, and that'd be a game that I play with myself. That if I'm playing, so for instance, in the summer in Abu Dhabi, the greens get quite long, similar to the UK in the winter, they get soft and rubbish. So you could potentially play the best round of your life tee to green, but because the greens are poor, you could miss every single putt and think you've had a poor day and you shot level par.
yeah,
But if I play the game of just a proximity game where I'm doing a process game linked in with it, I'll try and see how many shots, how many holes I can complete within that framework, and then I know full well if, based on the numbers that I've written down, am I hitting shots to a very very strong proximity, which then I know is not a guaranteed hole out, for instance, but
yeah,
I am increasing my chances of shooting a good number.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
so from that side of things, that's where I see, you know, with wedges when you're starting to get into trying to split that in half even more to 5%, and you're
Mm,
starting to hit those numbers, then at that stage, you know that you're starting to have some fun, and you're going to, you're looking at whole wedge shots as opposed to just sort of hit it on the green or hit it to 30 foot. I mean, I can always remember when I played Cumberwell Park, won the Europro event, and my wedge game was dialed in that week, and it is the practicing beforehand was all about wedges because Cumberwell is like a wedge fest. Um, and I hold two wedge shots, hit the pin twice in 3 rounds of golf. So,
mm,
from that side of things, it was like, right, well, I've gone there with a practice plan in place. I'm going to hit, call it 80% of the holes I'm going to be hitting wedges in. So my practice for the lead up to that was all based on wedges. And then when you go ahead and, I mean, hold two wedge shots and hit the pin twice, you know that actually, okay, that's like proof is in the pudding from me, from my side, from a player that
yeah,
I've read, I've looked at it, I've done the best I could with my prep, and I've executed to a very high standard, and ultimately, I won the tournament. Which,
yeah,
I mean, let's be frank, there was some luck in there as well. Like I've holed two wedge shots.
yeah.
It's a good shot, but there's also luck involved in that. You know,
Mm.
it, so there's so many different things that you can look into, but I see it as that as sort of good reward for good prep.
Yeah, and the specific practice that you did for that. I mean, when we're coaching, we're looking for the good players to get anywhere between sort of 7 and 10% deviation on
Yep.
everything. Actually, so off the tee, if you're within 7% deviation off the tee, you're probably going to be on the fairway somewhere.
Yep.
And so do you do that through the bag?
So
Um,
again, like Camberwell was an example. I would do some stock numbers, some variable numbers. Lucky enough, I'm attached to Yaz Links in Abu Dhabi, which is an unbelievable facility, and they've got a fantastic par three course, which for some reason nobody uses. So
mm,
I spend hours out there hitting numbers, hitting different variations of shots, and I do have access to a launch monitor where I'm borrowing a GC3 at the moment, which, if I'm perfectly honest with you, for just specific numbers and hitting, is fantastic. I think there's better ones on the market for inside and simulator stuff, but for actual just getting data of, am I trying to hit a number? Is it going with that number?
Yeah.
It's perfect for just picking it up, dropping it down, hitting, and going from there.
Yeah.
So as long as they're
And
sort of
you,
matching up.
yeah, and I was going to say, I think you're probably going to say the same thing. So it's matching feel
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
reality, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's times when, I mean, I think you could probably say this about every golfer. They sit there and they're trying to make swing changes, and the feel is so exaggerated that, oh my God, this must look like Tiger Woods.
Mm.
And then you look at the video and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
well, that looks exactly the same as before. So it's
Mm.
like, don't get me wrong. I'm not turning around and saying that you don't need technical acumen to perform, because you do.
Mm.
You need to be able to deliver the golf club in a consistent way. But after that, I think from there, building on, you got to find your way of moving. You got to find your way of executing shots, your way of delivering the golf club in a way that is more predictable, and then you're working on your tendencies from there. So
Yeah.
I've always played my best when I've actually had a high right miss, because I like to draw the ball,
Yeah.
as opposed to a ball that starts on target and draws too much.
Yeah.
So if I can get the ball basically going high right as my miss, and I'm aware of that, then generally I'm in a good spot where I can be nice and aggressive on the golf course.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, just through those examples, you're highlighting where technology and data are just becoming an integral part of what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I mean, we the junior students, we do a lot of games, the same situation where we'll get them to compete against each other to hit 50, 52, 55.
hmm
And it's a great fun activity, but it's developing that feel and that relationship between the data and actually what's going on the course. So, I mean, this year you've decided to take a look at maybe broadening the data you capture.
Yeah,
You've been,
absolutely.
yeah, you've been very zoned in and focused on proximity, and I know with Upgame you worked for a while with target versus actual,
Yep.
those sorts of things, which I think you've moved away from a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not quite as sort of, do you know, I'll just say anal about it. Like,
Yeah.
I've just
Mm.
been a little bit more chilled of, okay, these are the types of shots that I'm seeing. These are the types of shots that ultimately are being asked. What shot can I hit in this situation to
Mm.
perform to the best, with
Mm.
given, you know, the probability that's there.
Yeah.
Now, I know that sounds quite simple, and realistically it is. It's just golf. We're just trying to play the game of golf chess and plot.
Mm.
I'm a plotter. I don't hit
Yeah.
the ball massively far. I hit it far enough, but I would like to be able to plot my way around a golf course and do that to, I guess, alleviate any stress that comes with what the golf architect's doing.
Mm.
Generally, if there's a drivable par four, there's a reason that's a drivable par four. And
Yeah.
some people allude to the fact of, oh, actually, if I just hit a 4 iron and chip a wedge on, if I
Mm.
get good at that bit, I don't have to hit the big high cut with a driver that has to go 295 yards carry in the air and stop between 320 yards, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. You know,
Mm.
there can always be another approach,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and sometimes that doesn't make the highlight reel.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I think most of us will remember or have strategies out on the golf course to, par fives. It's sometimes better just to get it, 30, 40, 50 yards where you're comfortable, and it'll bump and run and give yourself a chance, rather than taking on the risks of trying to get up in two all of the time. So, no, I agree with you in terms of plotting it around the course. You and I have had this conversation a little bit about, it can become a little bit of sort of a doing state of mind, having to have particular shots, trying to get yourself into that mindset where it's, I'm trying to put it there, I'm trying to put it there. You've played on tour now for this, say you're going to be your 12th year.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to hit the ball. How far have you gone in measuring your mental state and whether you can actually just be into a being state of mind and use your
Yeah.
instinct and play around, and whether that makes a difference. I mean, that's one thing we were talking about, exploring this year, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I've got, I worked with Carl Morris for a bit, which was really, really good. Actually, during COVID, Abu Dhabi was quite restrictive, so I didn't really have much to do, so couldn't really go outside. So I ended up getting qualified with Carl with his mind factor stuff. And one of the best games that I've come across for that is the circle game, and it's basically just a process orientated game where you completely forget really about score. It's basically about picking shots, matching a field to the shot, and doing your routine and your process to the best way that you can.
Yeah.
And come the end of the hole, if you've done that throughout, whether you've made a 1 or whether you've made an 11, that's still all you can do in that situation. And it's just how you practice that and being really strict with yourself. Because there's so many times that I've been out with clients on the golf course, and I'm like, what shot were you trying to hit there? And they'll go, I don't really know. And I'm like, right, okay. So if you turn around and put in your sat nav, I want to go to London. I mean, London's quite a big place, and the golf course is quite a big place. So if you're not specific in what you want to try and achieve, the mind works very well with clear intentions, and I definitely try and practice that when I am, away from tournament play, because I think it's really important to try and make sure that you strengthen those bonds with yourself and your routine.
Yeah, for sure. And the reference to the circles, I didn't quite get that.
Oh, the reference to the circles, sorry. So obviously call it par 3. If you go through your process and execute, fantastic. All right, call it you've just come up short. You go through the same process with your chipping, pick a spot, however your routine would be. My routine would be completely different to your routine, how you see things. But you'd have a clear set of guidelines of in your own head of what you're trying to achieve. And that can be even just taking something that you're working on from a technical perspective. So what I'm working at with my coach, Mike Bolt in Dubai, is basically trying to get the golf club in front of me. I've always been one that drops the club behind and then I get a bit stuck. So it's trying to stay that way. So in my routine, I'm basically doing a feel that I can tap into of the position I want the club to be in, and then ultimately it's just complete and utter freedom from there to execute the shot, be it a draw, be it I'd say a fade, but I don't really hit fades, to be perfectly honest with you. They're more like little push fades, but we'll call it a fade for sounding good on a podcast. But anyone who knows plays with me, it's either sort of straight or a draw. So
okay. So clear intention is another good thing to look at. Pre-shot routine is something else.
I mean, it's just picking a shot and being committed to it.
Yeah.
If anything, if you can be committed to something, then you've got a chance. If you're sitting there, I don't know, I guess I call it half-arsing it. You're probably going to get a half-arsed result, which is not what people want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I talked at the start here about being a little bit more holistic. So looking at all aspects of it, both on the course and off the course.
Yeah.
I think starting to look at your relaxation, your ability to deal with the stress response. So maybe building in some meditation and measuring the impact of that on your life as well as your golf.
Yep.
And that's one area that we've talked about maybe taking a look at. Other areas, may consist of the relationship between scoring on certain parts of the course and your subjective mindset, how you're feeling. I mean, you and I spoke after Pakistan, your first round in Pakistan. I think you shot 5 over, was it? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Maybe
three over. Yeah,
3 over, yeah. And, the conversation we had was, is this a technical thing you need to fix? Or is it potentially just a mental, I know how to swing the golf club. Maybe it's just a
yeah,
relax a little bit going into the second round. And I think you're under par day two and felt better the rest of the tournament, I think.
yeah. I mean, again, it was just some old habits. Got a left miss going on day one. I mean, to
Yeah.
be fair, it was quite a strange one. It hasn't rained in Multan for 2 years, and the first round it rained the whole 18 holes. Which, I
Wow.
mean, even in the UK, I don't think I've actually ever played a round where it's just like fully rained, like for whatever 5 hours straight without
Yeah.
any stopping. So it
Mm.
was quite a strange one. So the golf course just changed completely.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of sort of just playing absolute miles, not going very far.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Pakistan was a really good one to. I'm actually really glad that I got that draw,
Mm.
because I mean the pro am. I mean, 18 was like a 470 par four, and it
Right.
was driver 9 iron in the pro am, and I was like, okay, this is a strong hole, but if you get the driver away, you're good. And I ripped driver
Mm.
in round one and had 230 yards in,
Right.
and had a 3 iron into the green, and that's a bit different in terms of how aggressive you can be, and
Yeah.
also how realistic you can be with you know putting it close from that sort of range.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. So looking at other aspects of your game this year, so the sort of, pulling some data on relaxation. So wearables, I think you're a Whoop wearer, is that right?
I am a Whoop wearer, yes. I mean,
Yeah. So
I've been a Whoop wearer for a while. I mean, it's taken a bit of a beating since Hugo, my son, came along. Um, but I think most parents will agree with that. That
yeah.
it doesn't matter how much you do, it's always going to get a bit of a battering in your sleep when the little ones come along.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about taking your Whoop data this year, to see whether we can see any particular activities there that may point to something. I mean, Whoop is a scientifically we can question it, but obviously they're working extremely hard to try and make everything as empirical and legitimate as possible. But what it does do is help us create good habits, doesn't it? In terms of sleep,
Yeah,
recovery,
absolutely.
diet. Keeps us off alcohol generally because that tends to screw our HRV up and those sorts of things.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah. It's crazy how much getting on the booze can hit that pretty hard. So
yeah.
I think, yeah, like you said, there are some areas where I sit there and question it. But
Mm.
generally, I think it's a good marker to utilize.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then this year we're going to experiment, or you're going to experiment with maybe adding some sensors to your clubs, or maybe in practice rounds to get some more data, but also using something like Arcos. Arcos does allow us to put rounds in without the sensors on the club. So retrospectively, we can actually just go drag and drop our data
Yeah,
onto Arcos. That gets pulled into a centralized app along with your Whoop data. So straight away we can start to build one relationship between your score and your, your,
state.
your state, yeah, whatever that
Yep,
is, your physiology.
yep.
So how do you feel about going down that path now,
To
starting
be fair,
to use that technology?
I think that's the one thing that I'd really like help with.
Yep.
Is I'd say I'm a pretty level-headed person on the golf
Mm.
course, but it'd be interesting to know, I guess, if the Whoop's calling kind of bullshit on that,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of stood on a certain tee shot or whatever, and I'm getting a spike in my heart rate or a certain situation. I think it would be nice if I can get a good flow of tournaments going this year,
Mm.
and hopefully get myself into contention to see how much that changes from, say, potentially, working towards the cut line or working towards a win or being middle of the pack in either way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just or switch it back to how it is when I'm practicing. And
Yeah.
can we recreate that heart rate state? I might be that crazy guy that has to do like 20 push-ups on a chipping green or something before trying to get complete an up and down contest or something.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember a few years ago? I mean, I remember being at the Dubai Desert Classic, and everybody decided that they were going to have a coffee before they went out. You saw all of these guys grabbing coffee on the first tee because somebody had suggested that starting to get you stimulated, and we'll get you to make par on the first or second or whatever. So people try all sorts of things, and I think whilst the technology may not give us minute to minute data to start off with, we can start an activity when we go out on the course, and we can take a look at it on when we get back in through the app and say, these are the sorts of things we were looking at, and then I think over time, over the next few years, I'm absolutely sure there will be correlation between what's happening on the course and what's happening on your whip. It could even be, just breaking it down to 3 holes, 3 holes, 3 holes, where you say, actually on the last 3 holes, when I really want to perform, this is how I felt. Or on the first 3 holes, I generally got off to a bad start.
Yeah.
One of the stats we've got in Perform 72, for example, is what do I do every 3 holes? Exactly that. So do I typically start better than I finish, or the other way around?
Yeah.
So starting to gather that data now is going to give you those little incremental gains.
Like it.
So what other areas of your game are you thinking about this year in terms of, perhaps not doing the same thing you've done all of the time, what you've done before, but changing it up a little bit and trying to get a broader perspective, a more holistic perspective? What other thoughts have you got around that?
I mean, to be honest with you, that's kind of where I want to lean into you, Jeff, a little bit in terms of what is available. I mean, I think I'll put my hands up and say that I'm probably not the most tech savvy guy in the world. I'd say I can get by, but in I'm always open to. Hopefully, this doesn't come across as poor, but I like to sieve the shit. So it's taking in as much information as I possibly can, and I sieve out the bits that are actually what I think will be relevant. And there's certain things like I've ended up going down some mindfulness route and things like that, and doing some, looking into mindfulness. And I mean, don't get me wrong, learning about mindfulness I found quite boring, but applying mindfulness to sport was absolutely like light, the light bulb went off, and I'm like, wow, actually every single time that I've won, I've managed to get myself in a mindful state to be able to perform. But if you don't know all the stuff that precedes it, you'd never know that you're in that state when you do it. And it's certain things like that. It's just, can you explore and extrapolate the things that you need for you? Because everyone will be different. I'll be different to you. You'll be different to Joe. Blogs down the road, whatever. But it's how do we offer, how do we find that stuff and offer it out to make it easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, some of the wearables will help us with some of the data. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever looked at Whoop when you meditate, but strangely, meditate is something you can't try harder at.
Yeah.
It isn't that sort of thing.
No.
You've got to get into that that state of being in the present. But quite interestingly, I can work on, when I'm meditating, how much I can improve my HRV, or how much I can drop my stress, or for example, how much I can drop my resting heart rate.
I mean that's the thing with Whoop, the fact that you can trace that now, and it is like you said, you can't try harder to meditate. You can't try harder. You've just got to be. The whole point of it is it's accepting of the thoughts that come into your mind and being able to process that equally, and not attaching any sort of, or try not to attach an emotional response to it. It's just being okay with the thoughts, processing it, and then moving on. And the more you practice that, and the more you get used to it, I think, to be honest with you, it probably helps out more in day-to-day life, which then helps you on the golf course than anything else. And it's then that perspective, and the perspective that you can bring to the golf course, and as
Yeah,
well as your life, which is really cool, which is really interesting, I think.
it's great. And, and again, one of the other metrics we measure is how often you meditate. I mean, you can, your watch will sometimes pick it up, your wearable pick it up, or you can start an activity to meditate.
Yeah.
And again, we can start to look at that sort of data. I mean, as you rightly said, the more you practice it. I mean, yesterday I went on an F1 simulator, and I was racing against my brother, who's a racing driver, right? In his spare time, and I found
I
towards
mean,
the
that's
end of the
quite
race,
cool, quite a cool thing just to drop into a conversation. Yeah.
yeah, but it was quite interesting. We had quite a few races, and I got ahead of him in one of the races, and I'm absolutely sure in the past I would have panicked completely. But I know now how to breathe. I know how
Yeah.
to relax even when I was in that stressful situation. And I think I had 2 or 3 laps to stay ahead of him, and he's quicker than me. And by breathing and feeling mindful, I loved the last 3 laps to the point that it just happened naturally.
Brilliant.
So
That's so cool. So cool.
it,
I love stuff like that.
yeah, and it, I felt it on the golf course as well. So it's, sometimes people will say it's very, very difficult to quantify. But again, in I keep coming back to what we're working with on Perform 72 as well. But we are starting to measure post and pre-round subjective and objective feelings about the way you felt during the day. To give you a sense of this round was great and this is how I felt, sort of thing, or this was the stress score. And we're also measuring things like resilience. So you can do a personality assessment of your resilience and look at the areas that you need to improve from a resilience point of view. And we have
That's
about
a,
8. We have
that
about
sounds pretty interesting.
we have 8 characteristics of resilience, and the areas, things like one of the resilience areas on the golf course, for example, is visualization. If you can stay and you can visualize, and your brain can transfer that into motor skills, and that's something that comes naturally to you when you practice, then you become more resilient. It's so. Those are the other things we're looking at with some of the coaches that are adding data to really, really add that holistic nature to what we're doing. So I love the fact that you're doing some of that, the mindfulness stuff as well.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean, I think breathing's probably, I know it's going to sound strange. Breathing is the most important thing
yeah,
to bring yourself back down to, I would call like an equilibrium.
yeah,
Um, and again, it goes to the mindfulness side of things. It's okay to go up or down, but it's how quickly you can respond to that by bringing yourself back. Um, and when people are like, oh yeah, I've been a hothead and now I'm not at all. I'm like, well, that was your outlet. There's obviously a reason for it, but can you get yourself into a state after you're good, bad, or indifferent? Like when Tiger was fist pumping and things like that, he
mm,
found his way to bring himself back again.
yeah,
Um, and it's one of those things that I think is it's really really important to be aware of. And if you can find a way to learn about it and work with someone with it, I think it's a very very useful tool to have in the toolbox.
it is, and it's difficult to discuss the relationship between sort of mindfulness and the flow state. I know there's a lot of, I think flow code is getting a lot of press now, and a lot of coaches are starting to use flow code. But flow code is the things that you've talked about. So having a pre-shot routine, making sure you're prepared, understanding how to breathe, how to control the peaks in your emotions, and those sorts of things, right? But
Yeah,
it's just one of the things, and understanding the relationship between that and other things in your game is also important, which is where the technology is going, I think, over time.
yeah,
Cool. So you're off to South Africa for the Sunshine Tour Q School, I believe.
yep.
What are you doing differently? I'm really looking forward to actually sitting at home and seeing your data come through on the app onto my dashboard whilst you're playing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
that's that's going to be fascinating for me as you head off to Q School. So I've
There
got
you
to
go.
get you wired up before you go. But what are you doing before for Q School to prepare?
So obviously it's over 2 stages.
Yeah.
There is Machiavelli Golf Club. I think that's how you call it. I'm not sure. It might be an Afrikaans way of saying something different, but hopefully I've not butchered that.
Mm.
Which is, I believe, Charles Schwartzel's home golf course when he was growing up.
Okay.
So
Mm.
yeah, a little bit of nuggets of history there. But
Mm.
yeah, I've looked into that. Um, it seems like quite a good driving golf course. Pretty tight fairways in places, which would probably lead based on altitude. The ball's going to be going quite a lot further. So I'm actually
Yeah.
going down there about 4 or 5 days early, just to go and practice, get used to it. I basically want to go there with all my numbers, knowing how far the club's going,
Mm.
how far the ball's going with each club.
Yeah.
Um, and my prep's basically around, well, the course looks like it's a lot of long irons and 3 woods as opposed to drivers. So I'd rather go there knowing that I've got a shot down with those clubs off the tee,
Yeah.
for example, in my practice. And then it's very much getting into sort of, I'd say 150 and in. It's not massively long. Whereas the second stage, which is final stage, Heron Banks, is a little bit different, a little bit more
Mm.
mid irons. If you can get driver in your hand and get it in play and take on some bunkers, then it does make the golf course a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so it's just varying my practice around that in making
Mm.
sure that I'm sort of going through and visualizing. I played Heron Banks last year, um, and yeah, visualizing those sort of shots and taking my practice to that to try and execute the shots.
Cool. And then you've got the South Africans to deal with.
Yeah.
I I caddied in South Africa in 2017-18. You'll remember with one of the Burmester boys,
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
and I do remember standing on. There were three South Africans stood on the first tee of this golf course, and strangely, it was a par four, and it was only, I don't know, 340, what I thought was yards long, because I hadn't reacclimatized, and the three boys all got drivers out and banged them on the green. And I was walking up and I said, wow, 340 yards. That was great. And you all banged them on the greens. And they said, no, it's 340 meters. It was like,
Yeah.
holy moly. that,
370 yards. Well, 380. Yeah. Yeah.
that was up
So
on the high felt where the air is thinner.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it goes a
and
long way.
they do. Those boys are strong, and they've got the altitude to help them as well. So
Yeah, very much so.
that
Very
should be
much so.
fun. So listen, thanks for chatting. This is the first podcast we're going to do in a series of podcasts, I hope. So we're
Yeah,
going to
perfect.
get you wired up. We're going to start taking some data from you. We're going to listen to you sieve the shit out of the data and see where we can refine it. So you've decided to come on a journey with us this year and see what we can gather. Probably going to take us this year to figure out the detail,
Yeah,
and then next
absolutely.
year to really boil it down and see whether we can make a difference. But I'm looking forward to the journey, collecting your data and seeing where we go.
As ever, it's work in progress. So it's going to be good to have a different insight, and
Yep,
if we can make that each day better and more detailed and more assigned to getting where we want to get to, then yeah, we'll get stuck in.
cool. Well, good luck at Q School, and
Thank you.
we'll catch up. We'll catch up as soon as you get back. And who knows, I might send you some messages if your data's coming through online, and we've got you wired up, ready for
Okay.
Q School. That'll be
Perfect.
fantastic.
If
All
you
right.
can let me know that I might look medically or data drivenly dead, just give me a nudge and I'll try and wake up. All right. So,
Brilliant. All right.
uh,
Thanks,
perfect.
Luke.
Cheers,
Safe
Jeff. Take
travels.
care.
Catch
Yeah.
you when you get back. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.